All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the movie script of 300.
300 based on Frank Miller's graphic novel.
Yeah, exactly. We're not just reliving those insane action scenes, though. We're going deeper, looking at how the script itself sets up all that visual impact and the emotion the movie hits you with.
Kind of like seeing the blueprint before they built the building.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
fascinating to see how they took a historical event like the Battle of Thermopylae
They
and
turned it into this stylized, almost mythic story.
right. Okay, so we're in ancient Greece. The Persian Empire is on the rise, a huge threat, and then you have the Spartans.
With their reputation.
Oh yeah, not just for being warriors, but their whole way of life. And the script doesn't waste any time showing us that. Dilios, he's our Spartan narrator. His opening lines, it's brutal. The way he describes their training, it's like a punch to the gut.
It's jarring, especially for a modern audience. I mean, they inspect babies at birth, the ones who don't measure up.
It's harsh.
Then the training. Boys basically abandoned to survive on their own. The script makes it clear right away. Spartans are products of this extreme system.
It's not just what they fight for, but how they're made. And then there's the visual contrast.
Oh, yeah.
The script hammers home this difference between Sparta, all bare and simple, and the Persian Empire.
Complete excess.
So much extravagance, you can practically see the movie's colors just reading the descriptions.
That's so true. And it hits you right away when Xerxes' messenger shows up. It's this huge spectacle. He's surrounded by like 1,000 people, all this wealth and luxury. And then you have the Spartans, disciplined, unyielding.
All about function, not flash.
Exactly. It's like their whole worldviews are clashing before anyone even says a word.
And speaking of words, we've got to talk about those iconic lines. Like when the messenger shows up demanding earth and water as a symbol of submission.
Classic.
And Leonidas, well, I think we all know what he says. This is Sparta. Chills, right?
Every time.
You can practically feel the ground shake just reading it.
And it's not just a cool line. It tells us so much about Leonidas right away. He's defiant, he's blunt, a king who's not going to back down. And then you have Queen Gorgo. She may not have as many lines, but the script makes them count.
She's sharp.
You can tell how intelligent she is. Like the script saying, hey, this isn't just a dudes with swords story.
No way. She holds her own.
Yeah.
But there's also this whole other layer with the E4s, those Spartan oracles.
Shrouded in mystery.
Totally. They have so much power, and even Leonidas has to deal with them and their cryptic pronouncements. What do you make of that element?
I think it adds complexity. It could be a simple good versus evil story, but the script throws in these internal tensions within Sparta itself. Leonidas isn't just fighting the Persians, he's dealing with the Spartan order, their traditions.
So it raises the question, what does true leadership look like when you're getting pressure from all sides?
Exactly. And that leads us to the selection of the 300. Knowing they're marching to almost certain death and doing it without question. It's chilling. I get why people are drawn to that part of the story. Absolutely. The script really emphasizes their commitment to duty and sacrifice. There's that detail about choosing only men with living sons, so their line continues even if they die.
Wow.
It's somber, but it highlights how ingrained this way of life is for them. And the ho chant when they're chosen, just reading it gives me shivers. It's that unity, their purpose. The script captures that perfectly.
Okay, so the 300 march north, and we see them encounter other Greeks, like the Arcadians.
Right.
They're impressed by the Spartans, but also a little skeptical. I thought that was a nice touch. Shows not everyone's on board with this whole death before dishonor thing.
Subtly shows how divided Greece was at the time, politically. And those encounters highlight how unique the Spartans are. Then there's that line, Spartans, what is your profession? I mean, come on.
It's iconic.
Even just reading it.
Gives you chills. It's so simple, but it sums up their whole worldview. War is their craft, and they've honed it to perfection. And then, boom, the Persians lose a huge chunk of their fleet in a storm. Clearly, the gods are involved.
Which makes you wonder, were the Spartans just lucky or favored by the gods? The script keeps that open.
Adds a layer of mystery.
Is it fate guiding them or their own choices? I think that ambiguity keeps you hooked.
Now we get to the hot gates,
That narrow pass.
where they decide to make their stand. The script really emphasizes how strategic this location is.
Makes you appreciate their tactical thinking.
Total David and Goliath situation.
Yeah.
And then there's that image. The wall built from Persian corpses.
It's grim.
Horrifying. But it instantly tells you this is a different kind of war. It's about survival. And the script never lets you forget that.
True.
And who could forget that line about fighting in the shade? Even facing these insane odds, they still crack jokes.
Shows their spirit, They're resourceful, quick-witted, and completely fearless. No wonder this story has resonated throughout history. But we're just getting started. This script's about to take us deeper into this conflict, into the minds of these warriors. So buckle up, because things are going to get even more intense.
Welcome back. It's wild how much tension the 300 script builds up in just the first act. We've got those iconic lines, these huge personalities, and this clash of whole civilizations, and it's all right there on the page.
You know, what struck me is how the script balances those epic moments with the smaller, more human ones. The Spartans, they're not just these war machines. They have conversations, they reflect on duty, sacrifice, and you see these glimpses of their humanity, even in all that chaos.
Exactly. It makes the turn the story takes in this second act even more powerful. We left off with the Spartans facing those impossible odds, betrayed, totally surrounded.
The reveal about Ephialtes leading the immortals to that secret path. Man, the script really plays with your emotions there. 1 minute, you're feeling the Spartans' confidence, and then bam, the rug's pulled out from under you.
It forces a shift in how they and the audience see the situation. They've been built up as these unstoppable warriors, but now the script makes their mortality real. Real, yeah.
They know they're gonna die, and seeing how they react is fascinating.
It's not despair, that's for sure.
No, they double down on their Spartan code, that unwavering commitment. It's like knowing death is coming makes their resolve even stronger.
There's that line from Leonidas about living his whole life for this gleaming moment in destiny. It's like acknowledging the sacrifices built in. It's bittersweet.
It really is.
Chills, right. And the script doesn't hold back. Those battle descriptions, they get even more visceral, almost poetic. It's like the writing itself is mirroring what's at stake.
It takes the fighting to this mythic level. Every clash of swords, every cry, it's all in vivid detail. It pulls you right in.
But it's not just about the physical fight, right? The script shows the mental toll war takes on them. They grapple with fear, with grief, losing their comrades. It makes them feel more relatable, despite how extreme their way of life is.
That's where it goes beyond just an action story. You have to confront the costs, the sacrifices, what they carry. It makes you think about the impact of war on a deeper level.
And back in Sparta, we can't forget Queen Gorgo. Her story is just as intense, even though it's a different kind of battle.
Absolutely.
Political scheming, confronting Theron, then his betrayal. She's a warrior in her own right.
Fighting for Sparta in a different arena.
Exactly.
It's a great example of how there are many forms of courage. She might not be on the battlefield, but she's facing just as much danger. And she's using her intellect, her influence, to protect her people. It adds another dimension to the themes the script's exploring.
Okay, so then we get that showdown between Leonidas and Xerxes. It's not just a physical fight, it's this clash of wills. Two completely different ways of seeing the world.
The tension there is unbelievable. You have Xerxes, this larger-than-life figure, offering Leonidas power, riches.
Right.
He embodies tyranny, this need to control everything.
And then Leonidas, he stands firm, refuses to compromise his honor.
Yeah.
He's the embodiment of freedom, willing to die for something bigger than himself. Their dialogue in the script just brings that contrast to life.
That line Leonidas gives, the world will know that free men stood against a tyrant, that even a god-king can bleed. It's powerful. And the script places it perfectly to highlight what's really on the line.
Chills every time.
Me too.
It reminds us that even when facing defeat, there's a victory in standing up for what you believe in defying tyranny. And we see that reflected in Queen Gorgo's story too. Her taking down Theron in the council chambers, it's as satisfying as any battle scene.
Oh, absolutely. It shows her strength, her cunning. She's not just a queen, but a strategist. She uses her intelligence to expose corruption, to fight for justice.
The script weaving those two storylines together, it's brilliant. You have the Spartans at the hot gates fighting for their lives and Queen Gorgo back in Sparta waging her own kind of war. It creates this feeling that their entire civilization is at stake.
And amidst all of that, the script still manages to show you the emotional weight without being too heavy-handed. That scene where Leonidas comforts his captain after losing his son, it's heartbreaking, but you see a different side to these hardened warriors.
Yeah, it's raw. They grieve, they feel the loss, but it doesn't break them.
Right. It strengthens their bond and reminds you that these larger-than-life figures are still human.
And as they get ready for that final stand, the script builds this sense of defiance. It's like they're almost welcoming death.
Like they've reached a point where fear is gone, they've embraced their fate.
It's what makes their story so powerful. They're not just fighting for survival, they're fighting for their beliefs, for their freedom, and for something much bigger than themselves.
You're right. But with the Spartans trapped, betrayed, facing those impossible odds, how does the script handle that build up to the final battle? How do you make a story that's already epic even more intense? That's what we'll be looking at as we head into the final act of our deep dive.
Okay, we're back. And this 300 script does not let up on the tension. We know what's coming for these Spartans, but the way it's written, it's like you can't help but be swept up in it.
That's what makes a great script, right? It's not just what happens, but how it makes you feel. And this one, man, it just keeps raising the stakes. Emotionally, I mean. Even when you think it can't get any higher.
No kidding. So, last we left off, the Spartans are trapped. Their fate's pretty much sealed. Where does the script go from there?
It does something really smart. Before jumping into that last stand, it takes us back to Sparta, right into that council chamber. Queen Gorgo, she's making this desperate plea for reinforcements.
That scene, it's like the pressure just explodes. Suddenly, it's not just about those 300 men. It's the whole future of Sparta that's hanging in the balance.
And it reinforces how the script shows us different kinds of courage. You've got Leonidas and his men facing death head-on, and then you've got Queen Gorgo. She's in this whole other battle, a political one, but it's just as dangerous.
For sure. And she's going up against Theron. That councilman, he's so slippery, trying to undermine Leonidas from the beginning. The way he manipulates the council, spreading all that doubt and fear, it's infuriating.
He represents everything the Spartans are not. Selfish, willing to betray his people just to grab more power. The script uses him to show how dangerous ambition can be, especially in a crisis.
And Gorgo, she doesn't flinch. The way she takes him down, exposes him, it's as satisfying as any fight.
Totally. It shows her intelligence, how she thinks strategically. She's more than just a queen. She's a leader, and she's willing to fight, even when the odds are against her.
It makes you wonder, what if they'd listened to her earlier? Could things have been different at the hot gates?
It's one of those things that sticks with you. But that's the power of this kind of story, right? It makes you think about those choices, how one thing leads to another, and how even something small can change everything.
Meanwhile, back at the hot gates, the Spartans are preparing for their last stand. The script, it doesn't shy away from how heavy that moment is. Knowing what's about to happen, it's heartbreaking, but there's also this strange beauty to it.
It's a powerful mix of emotions.
There's that scene, Leonidas and his captain, they're talking, reflecting on their lives, everything they've lost. It makes them feel so human, you know. It makes their sacrifice even more powerful.
It's those small personal moments that make it work so well. They remind us that these warriors are fathers, husbands. They value life even as they're staring death in the face. It makes their dedication to something bigger than themselves all the more meaningful.
And then Leonidas, he releases Dilios from duty, tells him to go, tell their story. It's like passing on a torch, making sure what they do won't be forgotten.
It's such a powerful image. You see the weight of that landing on Dilios. He's carrying the legacy of those 300 men now.
Then the Persians attack. And the script, it just erupts. It's this torrent of action and violence, almost too much to take in.
The writing becomes so visceral. You're right there in the middle of it all. You can hear the metal clashing, the screams, the Persians just pouring forward. It's terrifying. It's exhilarating all at once.
But even with all that chaos, the script still shows us those individual acts of heroism. Spartans defying the odds, fighting with everything they've got, like they're determined to make their deaths matter.
Like Stilios, jumping off of Leonidas to get into the enemy ranks. It's such a bold move. It shows that even at the very end, they can still surprise you.
And Leonidas, facing Xerxes, he refuses to give in, even when he's being hit with all those arrows, throwing his spear at the god king. That's symbolic, right?
Absolutely. He might be dying, but he's not broken. It shows you the strength of the human spirit, even in defeat. Standing up for what you believe in, refusing to be controlled. That's a victory in itself.
The script, it doesn't hide how brutal his death is. But there's something noble about it, too. The Spartans die the way they lived, fighting together, unbroken. It's tragic, but also triumphant somehow.
And then silence. The battle's over, the 300 are gone. But it's in those final scenes that their legacy really hits you. Dilios, he keeps his promise. He tells their story, and it inspires others to rise up, to fight for their freedom.
That image of the Spartan phalanx charging at Plataea, it's a powerful ending. It shows how even in death, the 300 achieved something. They inspired others to keep fighting, to make sure they didn't die for nothing.
It leaves you with a sense of hope, a reminder that even when it seems like everything's lost, that fighting for what's right is always worth it, no matter what.
This deep dive into 300, it's been a journey. It's a story about courage, sacrifice, the power of the human spirit. But it's also about the power of stories themselves. How a well-written script can take you somewhere else entirely, make you feel the weight of history, and leave you with questions that stay with you long after it's over.
So we'll leave you with this. What resonates with you about the Spartans? Is it their courage, their dedication to their ideals, or that willingness to die for something bigger than themselves? Think about it. Let us know what you think.